Okay, I think we are about ready to get started. Okay, so on your screen is a code to a fundraiser page for Team 8565 Technicbots because they need to raise money to compete at First Global this year. The registration fee alone is $10,000. So if you could chuck a little bit of money their way, it would definitely be extremely helpful and it would be highly appreciated. Okay. All right. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the first of many STEM forum events where we invite someone involved in STEM and we have them talk about their incredible journey to where they are today. For the first episode, we have something a little special. We're not joined by one, but we're joined by three world champion robotics alumni. They are from FTC Team 8565 Technicbots. In the last season, they won the Inspire Award, which is the most prestigious award, both at the regional and world level. They've also been selected to Team USA for the second year in a row in the first global competition. But they need a lot of funds to make that happen, and they've opened a fundraiser. So if you're interested in donating, please scan the QR code at the end, and we'll also provide a link in the chat. In addition, feel free to leave your questions in the chat since we will be having a Q&A at the end. Also, please stay muted and keep your video off as to preserve bandwidth so everybody can listen wherever they are listening. So let's see. I think our three speakers tonight are all with us right now. And give me 1 second. Oh, so these are the three speakers for this evening. They are John, Ellen, and Champers. So John is attending UT with a computer science major. He mainly did building for the team. Ellen is attending the All-in College of Engineering with a $60,000 scholarship. She mainly did scouting and the engineering notebook. Finally, Chambers is attending UT Austin with a CE and computer science major. He also mainly did building and CAD for the team. So why don't all of you give a little bit more of a detailed description of yourself?
Okay, I guess I can start. So I'm Champers on Team USA. I was mainly doing hardware and CAD and a little bit of programming for one of the projects. And next year I'm going into ECE, electrical computer engineering and business at UT Austin.
I'll go next. My name's Ellen. I worked on our scouting program in the team as well as some outreach stuff. And next year I'll be attending Olin College of Engineering and possibly majoring in ECE also.
Yeah, so I'm John Dunbar, and I did a lot of the building and the CAD for the robotics team, and I'm going on to the University of Texas at Austin for computer science.
Cool. And when did each one of you decide to start getting involved in FIRST?
So I first got involved in sophomore year. Basically, I had met the Technicbots at an event that I attended in 7th grade way back in middle school at a camp for girls where they taught about technology. That's where I learned about them. And then a few years later, I learned that they were accepting applications to join their team. So I was interested and applied to join FIRST.
I joined around somewhere during the second semester of freshman year, but like I only like really started working on the robot sophomore year alongside John and like Ellen.
Yeah. So I started kind of in middle school, and like my middle school team, like kind of started a team there, and then in sophomore year I joined the Technicbots.
So I think that there's a pretty common idea that people have about these robotics-like programs is that you have to join at a pretty early age. Do you agree with this at all?
No, not at all. I mean, it definitely helps if you've joined and gone through like FLL, so you kind of know the details of everything. But like I joined pretty late. I was only at first for 2 years, but I still think that I got plenty of learning experience out of it.
I definitely say like earlier is better, yes, but that definitely didn't like you definitely be able to like compete at a high level, and you don't need like to be in first for 12 years or anything already.
Right. So all three of you, right before you joined FIRST, what is the best way you would describe your personality and also your team working skills, and as well as other skills that might be relevant to FTC?
Well, I guess before I joined the team, I I had done like some summer camps a bit, where it's like kind of robotics, but not really that much. Also, I've been like kind of played around with programming and like I guess Legos, but I guess really the critical thinking skills and like the creativity is probably the most important when you're just getting started.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
say FTC robotics definitely helps bring out team working skills because beforehand you don't really work on a team on a massive project like building a robot. Like you might have some group projects in school, so like someone carries and like so some people slack off. Like that doesn't really happen in that can't really happen in a robotics team. So like you definitely gain more experience working as like an actual team by joining first.
Yeah, and I'd say it definitely also helps like soft skills like presenting and communication. Like before I joined FTC, I was definitely a lot more withdrawn. I didn't like talking to people a lot, but if you're in FTC, you definitely have to get used to presenting in front of judges and things like that.
For sure. So you joined first, and then as you progress more and more throughout the season, you're probably forming lots of memorable moments inside of your head. So out of everything that happened during all seasons that you've participated in first, what would you say is your most memorable moment in all of FTC?
Well, I would say that my most memorable moment is kind of right before Worlds, where we're all like preparing and there's like a lot of stuff to get done like right before to make our robot working. And I remember like that weekend, I would just like spent like every waking moment working on the robot and like figuring out like math in my head and like making a calculator and doing a bunch of like fun stuff.
Yeah, I'd say my most memorable moment is probably during the World Championship, when I went to go give a conference about the scouting system that we'd been working on for like 2 years. It was kind of like the culmination of what I've been working on the team essentially. So, giving that presentation in front of like a whole room of people at a World Championship was a very big moment for me.
And then for me, I'd say the most memorable moment was actually during my first FTC season when our robot actually failed at what do you call it, regional championships, and like it failed. The servo motor failed the match we needed to win in order to advance to world championships. So that was a pretty memorable moment for me because like it taught us you always need to check all the motors on your robot, otherwise you might encounter some technical difficulties during your most critical moments.
Okay, so you guys, I know none of you did FLL, right? Because your first involvement with first was FTC. But can you just kind of briefly describe the sort of ladder that is going from FLL to FTC and then FRC?
So I can probably talk about that. For FLL, I think it's you start out with like the really basic sort of building and both building and coding. You have like Legos instead of actual acrobatics or rev parts, and then you have like block coding instead of Android Studio. And then progressively, as the kids age, you'll be able to learn how to work with more complicated parts, complicated code, and present more complicated things instead of just like the basic research projects you do in FLL. You have to do present what your outreach programs were to the actual community.
Right. So that added element of outreach
Right.
is a pretty big thing as you go into FTC and FRC. Okay, so for people that do not know, FLL stands for First Lego League. So First is the company, the corporation that manages all of these robotics events. So it starts from First Lego League. There's like Challenge, or it starts at First Lego League Explore, and then it goes to First Lego League Challenge, and then you go to First Tech Challenge, and then optionally you can also go up to First Robotics Competition. So First Robotics Competition has huge robots that I think can be 60 inches wide. So those are like the big leagues or whatever. But you can still participate in FTC from grades 7 through 12. Okay, so now you guys, I think John mentioned during the World's Championship. So the World's Championship is pretty self-explanatory. It's the championship that determines it is all teams of the world. So after they did the World Championship, they won first in the Inspire Award. The Inspire Award is the most prestigious award that you can win at Worlds. So they won this, and they were later selected to go to First Global. So could one of you briefly describe what First Global is?
Yeah, so First Global is it's basically an Olympic style competition for robotics. So each country has their own team that they advance to worlds through, whatever their selection process is. For the US, it's whoever wins FTC World Championships or wins Inspire Award at the FTC World Championships. And this year it's going to be on site, like in person in Geneva, Switzerland. But last year it was all virtual online, and that wasn't as fun as it is going to be this year.
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to see the robot that they actually advanced the world and won worlds with, I can show you guys that right now. I will share my screen. Let's see if this will work. Okay, I think it'll work. Let's see this. And here is their robot that they used in, oh, wait, 1 second. Skip, okay. Yeah, so here's the robot that they used during their World Championship, as well as their other championships like regionals. So this is what they use. And as you can see with the robot, there's an arm that essentially sucks up and puts in these game elements called freight into shipping hubs, and you get points from doing that. So you guys go to first global after you win Inspire Award at the award ceremony at first the World Championship of FTC. So could you kind of, each one of you, describe that moment when you heard your team number being called and your team name being called for that Inspire Award?
I guess I'll go first. I mean, it was definitely a very exciting moment. I remember when they were starting to give the description, everyone on our team was just pulling out their cameras and recording. Like they wouldn't, like, just in case they were about to say 565. And then it turned out that they did. So I actually have the video saved on my phone of them giving the description, progressively being like a closer description to what our team was. And then like people screaming beside me. It was like really pretty unbelievable moment.
Yeah, I'd say that we weren't selected for a runner-up for any of the other awards. So I was actually kind of worried that like we might have gotten disqualified or something. So I was really surprised when they actually chose us to be the Inspire Award winner. So that it was a really surprising moment for me.
Yeah, like definitely me too. I like going into it, I definitely had like definitely did not think that we would win the Inspire Award. And then when like they gave the description, and then I was like, oh my God, this might be us, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And that description building up to it must have been an incredible moment, as well, as Ellen described. And so let's flash back to a year earlier where there was no Worlds because it was all virtual, but you guys were still selected to represent the United States of America and participate in First Global. So when when they let you knew that you were going to be representing the United States, how did that feel? Because you did not know that before, unlike when you were in First Inspire, where you kind of pretty much know it by that point.
Yeah, it was also like really shocking because I didn't even know that First Global was like even a thing. And I remember I was on vacation and then my mom was like, "Hey, you guys were selected for Team USA." I was like, "What is that?" And then when we got the news, it was just really amazing to be selected to like represent a country in FTC.
For me, coach announced it over a Zoom call, and I was actually working on the robot during that Zoom call. I remember John was also on the field with me, so he might have some recollections of this too. But like, I was a bit shocked. I was not looking forward to working like another 4 months on robotics, because I was like almost, I was thinking, okay, just one more season and then I'm done with this. I have my senior year ahead of me. I can just relax. But then, like, that happened, so I had to keep on going in robotics. But at the end, it did pay off.
Yeah, I think our coach Fong said that like when she got the email, like she was kind of confused and like she thought it might be like a spam email because like they didn't like we were like kind of like totally like not expecting to be selected because I mean we didn't even know how the selection process would be in 2021 or anything. So it was kind of like I guess confusing, but also for me when I started learning more about like the first global challenge and like what the previous Team USAs have done, then it kind of started being more of a challenge. It's like a challenge to do really well at this kind of thing.
Right. And since this did happen during COVID, the entire thing of FTC must have been completely turned upside down once COVID started. So what are some general strategies that you went to FTC with that were completely changed because of the COVID? And also, what are some things that you had to do to maybe some outreach events that you had to do to essentially help these people that are in need?
Well, for COVID, we definitely had to, move essentially everything to Zoom. We had team meetings over Zoom, like those 5 hour long team meetings that went till 1 a.m. in the morning over Zoom. We had to do more outreach programs over Zoom, like, teaching robotics to like BGC kids, or we even had like this youth summer fun program that we hosted for kids stuck at quarantine during home who were bored. I think that also going virtual helped us be more flexible as well, because it's not a physical location, so it's more accessible to like people across the country. I remember at one point we got someone from New York to come to one of our events, so part of that did bring us some more advantages as well.
Yeah, and I think we still like I'm pretty sure we still like in our team meetings have like we put up on the TV the Zoom meeting. So if someone's like out of town and they want to participate and like say some stuff, they can join in the Zoom meeting and it's like everyone else is in person now. But it's kind of an aspect we kept.
Yeah, so like John was saying, we basically taken what we learned to communicate, like the method we used to communicate over Zoom and like different online services during the pandemic, and we've applied it to how we're operating now, even as the pandemic comes to an end. So now if someone goes out of town or something, we're still going to be able to reach them, drag them into the team meetings, even if they don't want to show up, because the meetings are like 5 hours long. So like we always host our meetings over Zoom and like in person if people can show up now. So that's a pretty cool thing that we got out of COVID, alongside just being able to plan everything out better, because during COVID we're not going to be able to all like get together and work on the robot at the same time. So like that season was the first time we actually started to use CAD to plan everything out before we actually built it, but because we couldn't afford to really make as many mistakes while we're building the robot. We all have like a limited amount of time that we can spend with it before someone else has to work on it.
Right. And also for Chambers, well, really, but I hear anybody else talk about you, most people will talk about how good you are at electrical engineering, making cool parts, repairing anything. It's pretty cool. So when you did this, how did that play into COVID?
Are you talking about like repairing stuff?
Yeah. So like
how did that play into COVID?
Or maybe generally, but like you can just talk a little bit more about the incredible skills that you have where you could take anything and just fix it.
Okay, so during COVID, our team started using our 3D printers for printing PPE, personal protective equipment, for nurses. If you guys recall, at the start of the pandemic, there was a equipment shortage for nurses because everyone was trying to get masks. No one knew what was going on, so like masks, face shields, they were in short supply. So we actually started using our 3D printers to start printing these things and donating them to local local nurses and like, local healthcare offices. And so that involved running our printers for an insane amount of time each day. Like as soon as we woke up, we would, start a print. And then while we're taking classes online, we would like, make sure the print was running and like, do a little bit of maintenance here and there. But that also meant that because we were using the printer so much, they would break down pretty darn quickly. Like I had to do repairs on the printers, like, on average about like once or twice a week. So the COVID pandemic kind of forced me to learn how to fix 3D printers. It was my first time, managing my own 3D printer, because beforehand I had Max. I could just send over the 3D models I needed to be printed to him. So the pandemic was able to teach me, force me to learn, this is how a 3D printer works. Here's the circuit, and then, apply, and then I could apply the past electrical engineering experience I've had, just messing around with circuits, taking things apart and building my own projects, and apply that to fixing these 3D printers, seeing like, what are the most common components that go wrong, and, practice my surface mount soldering a little bit, because sometimes little chips, like the chips on the circuit boards, or like surface mount transistors would go bad, and I would be replacing those.
Right. So clearly you had to learn a lot, and probably pretty quickly, because you had to do this stuff, very often as well. So it's incredible that you've been able to learn all this.
Yeah, I definitely had to spend a little bit of time. Like, the first time it broke down, I think it was Max's printer. I had to like, go over to his house for like 2 or 3 days to figure out what was going on. But then after that, like after you learn how to do it the first time, all the 3D printers are like, built in a fairly similar fashion. So I could just apply, what I learned fixing Max's printer to, pretty much all the printers.
Right. So was this a collaboration with just your team?
This was a collaborative effort between a bunch of teams in our area. Like we basically reached out to a bunch of teams, asked them, hey, do you guys have 3D printers on idle that, we might be able to use to print some face shields and ear guards? And then, a lot of teams actually responded and they joined this effort. And we even had, some teams donating their broken printers to us for us to fix. And then, and then we could use those. The printer I ran was the original 3D printer, the original one that became widely available, the Technicbots Simple Metal. And that thing is so old, and it just keeps on breaking down. And I actually got it broken. It was given to me broken. I was told, fix it and then see if you can fix it and get it running. So that's basically how we operated during the pandemic, just reaching out to a lot of teams in our area and trying to get them to help with this effort.
Right. And through this, you've also essentially become a role model to multiple teams, because you're leading the effort. Other people will start doing something similar to them, and then they start helping a bunch of people as well. So your team has always pretty much been a role model for robotics kids. And our team, specifically 18227 Area 52, they have mentored our team since the team started. So this, and the purpose of this hosting is actually because we want to spread the spirits and help the kids. So Technicbots, which is the team we're talking to right now, has in a way essentially caused this to happen. So there's a huge impact going on here that's not just direct. So out of all the seasons that you've competed in, regardless of how many, which do you think is the most impactful to you?
Well, I have to say probably just the first season I competed in. Partially because that's the only one that was completely in person, where you get like the full experience of actually being at the tournament, watching the games run, and not just watching it through a computer screen. But also the first season is where you kind of go through that learning curve of like being an FTC, and learning like how to do all the protocol and catch up with everyone else.
Yeah. So I would say, well, it's not exactly a season, but I would say the most impactful season, like for me, was the off season between my first season at FTC, which was Tristone, and the next one, which was Ultimate Goal. Because in that off season, I did a lot of work with CAD, and I feel like that's where my CAD skills crossed the line from being just like a tool for making like 3D printed parts to actually being a tool that I can design robots with and actually like design them in a way where it's a lot more efficient than just like doing it with my hands or like kind of guessing and checking kind of thing.
For me, I'd say the most impactful season was definitely also the first season, like Ellen, because that's where you learn to like, start operating on a team, like working together with your teammates, coming up with ideas together, and then like learning all the tools you need to actually be able to build the robot and succeed.
Yeah, for sure. And when we talk about this, we should also talk about as you do FTC more and more, it starts to become more and more a part of your daily life, where you wake up and that's what you're thinking about. And so your personality wise, how do you think you've been affected, and in what ways have you changed as a result of FTC?
I'd say that I'm definitely well, FTC definitely helped with my team working skills because it's the first time you're working on like working with a bunch of people on a huge project, and a robotics team, it kind of operates almost like a business because we have to secure funding and all of that stuff. So it also kind of introduced me to like the more business side of things a little bit, and it also helped me with learning CAD, because I definitely wouldn't have learned CAD on my own if I didn't have to do robotics.
Yeah, like Champer said, it definitely improves your teamwork skills a lot because like this is a team that you're competing with throughout many years, not just for like a small group project at school. I'd say it definitely also improves like presentation skills. Like I know once I got into FTC, I had to do a lot more of like presenting to a whole bunch of people rather than just your classroom, and it made me a lot more confident in that aspect.
For sure. And by the way, people who are leaving questions in the chats, we will take a look at all of the questions at 7:40. So if you want to submit your questions, do that up to 7:40 and we'll take a look at them, and then we'll do one at the end as well. Okay. So you've done FTC and it's clearly had a big effect on you, teamworking skills, but also how would you say when you have disputes between two different team members about an idea that they want to implement? For example, if they wanted to implement something into the robot, a person didn't want that. So how would you go about resolving these issues? And did that change in FTC? Because in FTC, well, there's a lot more at stake than just a normal argument.
Okay, so one of the ways that we resolved disputes between us was actually using CAD. So during the ultimate goal season, which was pretty much completely online, like me and John, we're disputing a little bit about how to design the robot at first. This was like when the game was first released, and we were just coming up with basic ideas to build the robot. So what we did was I don't want to steal too much from John's work here, but we ended up using CAD and then building out a bunch of physical prototypes from our CAD diagrams. Like we were sharing our ideas over CAD, and what we ended up doing was combining me and John like our ideas into basically one hybrid design. So if John wants to elaborate on that.
Yeah, I guess like the advantage of like doing it in CAD is that like we can have high level overviews where we can like kind of visualize what's happening, but we can also have like more detailed models where we specify like, we know the exact size of everything. So we can tell like if it's like too big or it'll be too cramped with this design kind of thing. I think other than that, there's like, if we do like some pro con charts a couple times to kind of decide stuff, and I guess just talking through it is like a skill that develops and like gradually improves as you become more cohesive as a team.
Yeah, 7:40, everybody. Keep leaving them questions in because we have quite a couple right now. Okay. So I think this might be one of the questions in the chat, but when you talk about your school work, and you're probably loaded a lot in school, maybe you're taking a couple AP classes, but you also have to do a lot for robotics pretty big time commitment. As you were talking about 1 a.m. meetings that go up to 1 a.m., it can be pretty hard to balance these things. So how did you go about trying to balance your school activities as well as your robotics activities?
I guess for me, like I kind of decided in like ninth grade-ish that like I wanted to target for grades above 90. And then like I would spend just enough work to get my grades above 90. And then I'd spend the rest of my time on extracurriculars. And that's kind of how I balanced it.
I'd say I like used sort of a planner to like spread out all my work so that it would be like, so on this day I do some school stuff, some FTC stuff. You know, on this day if I had an FTC event, I do school stuff before. So just make sure you're not overloading yourself too much in one day and leaving things to the end. It kind of like just comes with experience, I guess.
Right. And by the way, CAD is computer aided design. It's like visualizing a robot on a 3D plane. Okay. So it is 7:39. I think we're just going to go to questions since we have so many of them. So let me scroll all the way up. Okay, so our first question comes from Andrew. And how did COVID impact the rates of production for your robots?
It was definitely slower like than usual. And that season during COVID, we had like they extended the season to be even longer because they knew that people would have difficulty collaborating. And like we definitely needed that in order to create a robot that's like on par with our previous years.
And this next question is coming from Sophie. What advice would you give to a new FTC builder? What should we do to become a good builder? And so I'll let Chambers and John take this because they did do building for the team.
I would say that I guess you can find like a challenge in anything and like not to build something that's like kind of too ambitious, I guess. It's like better to do like a couple things very well than to do a ton of things. So like rather than trying to build some super complicated part, there is just as much challenge in like you can spend just as much effort building like a simple part, but trying to make it like extremely good. And that will perform a lot better in a competition and like, yeah.
And Chambers, what about you?
Oh, I was on mute this entire time. Okay, I was talking. Okay. So I would say, yeah, I agree with John. Definitely try to keep your designs as simple as possible. Because at our level, if you try to build anything too complicated, the reality is it's probably going to break in the middle of your competition. The more parts you add, the more complexity you add, the more things that could possibly go wrong with your robot. And FTC robots aren't exactly like production ready robots that are super durable. And what was the other part of the question? It was like asking what should a good builder have or something like that.
Yeah, what do you need to do to become a good builder?
Oh, okay. Then for that, you can really just try to build some small projects on your own. Like, try to build I don't know, just simple things like, well, whenever your bike breaks, like try to fix your bike, or if something, if some mechanical device goes wrong, like, take it apart, look at it, like see if you can figure out what went wrong. And then you can like, along the way, you can see how a commercial product was designed. And then you might be able to apply that to, robotics.
Right. Let's see the next question here. Okay. What summer camps or programs did you do to get interested in STEM robotics? I don't know if this is for all of you, what really motivated you to go into robotics at first?
So like I said, it was that camp. It's called Gigawatt. It was like a camp for girls to learn about technology and STEM. And so basically that was where the Technicbots of the previous generation actually they presented there. They like showed their robot, and I just thought it was really cool that these teenagers could build something so impressive. And they had us like program the little EV3 robots, and I just found it really cool. So I remember that 3 years later and joined FTC.
For me, I was basically always interested in science. And then like around middle school, things around the house started breaking and I would just take them apart, try to reverse engineer it, fix it, that type of stuff. And I also got into a little bit of circuits in that time. So I was already going down the engineering route, like, robotics, electrical, or computer engineering, close enough. So yeah, I just did robotics throughout high school.
And I guess for me, I don't feel like there was any like I didn't go to any summer camps that were like super STEM related. Yes. So I wasn't like super interested in robotics when I first started, but I don't know, I guess Legos something were fun when I was really little, so that probably carried over.
Right. And this next question is from Sue. What contribution do you think you made to your team?
For me, I'd say probably, just or at competitions, it was definitely repairing the robot, like, as fast as possible. Like, if a wire broke or if something stopped working, like, I could pull out the soldering iron and just repair the wire or whatever that went wrong. And then I also helped with rendering the robot, like creating almost photorealistic renders of the robot. Yeah.
For me, my contribution comes mostly to like the robot game itself since I do scouting. I like made our giant data analysis sheet for all the teams and all their data. And I made the UI that like our scouters can go use to collect data. So my contribution lies mostly in like where at the end of like the qualifiers, if we make it to the top few teams, you can choose our team, and then basically that's when our team was going to use my data to select the best choice.
So I guess I did a lot of I guess apart from building the parts for the robots, I guess learned a lot about CAD and like I like passed that on to the other generation, and I guess hopefully they learned it and hopefully they'll be able to use CAD as part of the design process and to like that like the CAD first style of designing robots kind of.
Yeah, and I just wanted to show how much commitment these three have put into robotics. Here, let's see if this works. Yeah. Okay, so here's a photo from, I think this was Worlds, and as you can see, one team member lying on the ground to sleep. Two team members lying on the ground. It must have been countless hours put into this, right?
Well, there's four. 4 team members sleeping.
Yeah, it seems as though you guys worked extremely hard to get here, and yeah, I just wanted to show that it's incredible the amount of commitment and dedication these three have put into robotics. They definitely deserved every single bit of, I guess, prestige that they have earned through robotics. All right, next question. I think we talked about Dave's question already. How did you balance schoolwork, other commitments in FTC? How easy was it? I think we pretty much went over that. So let's go on to another question from Andrew. Did you have to improvise with skills you have and materials on hand? If so, then how?
Yeah, I guess definitely like when you go like sometimes you have a CAD model and then like I guess more so when I was less experienced with building, I would have a CAD model, it would like put it on the robot and then like we find out that doesn't work. Or many times we'd be like testing the robot or doing driver training and you find like some issue and you can see like we like grab things on hand, see like what kind of thing would fix it, and then maybe we could design a more like reliable, more robust version later. Or sometimes we just like grab random parts and attach it to the robot. So yeah.
And so Chambers, you're always the guy that's always like, field side, always ready to fix the robot if it breaks during qualifier. So during one of these qualifiers, have you had to pretty much just like off the top? I think you described one at the regional championship where you had to pretty much, the robot completely broke down and you had to fix it. How do you think that was like a something you want to relive, or is that just like, no, I don't want to do that anymore?
Honestly, yeah, I kind of do want to relive that kind of on the spot troubleshooting, because like it's super fast paced. You have like a hard time limit, and like you're under pressure, but at the same time it's pretty exciting. So yeah, I'd say it was a pretty fun experience.
I guess like
Uh,
an example, I guess from the past year, it was like our intake. So during the competition, we'd had this issue where like the intake, when it would like, or like when it would spit stuff out or like outtake, it would like fling them out super far. And I mean, that was like a rule violation that we didn't notice was happening before in our testing. So like kind of on the spot, we decided, there was this bump that we had included in it. And like, what if we just, instead of the bump, we just put like a button head screw there. So we tried that and it worked a bit better. And then like, what if we put a series of button head screws? So it's like not just in one place. So we drilled more holes and then put more screws there. And it's like a lot of that improvising kind of thing that goes on, especially during the tournaments.
Right. So let's go to the next question. This one is from Sue. I like this one. What do you think a member should do to contribute to their team? So what is the best way to contribute to your team?
Really, just do whatever you're good at, because like for our team, everyone kind of somewhat specializes in one area, and then they get really good at that one area. So just do what you're good at.
Yeah, and I guess other than that, just try to like contribute at team meetings. If it's not your part, don't just like sit there and be on your phone or something. Just like try your best to help out whenever you can.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next question is from Andrew. This one I think we've a little bit talked about, but how did computer-aided design impact your projects? We could just summarize this in like one sentence.
It made prototyping a lot faster because we could plan everything out beforehand and spot potential mistakes.
Okay. And then we have the next question from Brandon. When and how did you find out and start doing robotics? I think we talked about that already. And so let's go on to Sue's question. What big improvements did you make to the robot? So I guess it's like maybe one of the biggest improvements that you've made to the robot by yourself in all the time you've done FTC.
I don't know if there's like any big improvements because it's always like iterations kind of thing, and like designing a mechanism and then like having it work. So
Okay.
Yeah, like for
so
us, we're constantly like building up a subsystem and then redesigning it and seeing what can be improved. So our improvements to the robot are pretty gradual. There's no like sudden huge jumps in performance.
So what CAD program do you guys use?
So we use Fusion 360, which is free for hobbyists. Although we have seen a lot of teams like do well with Onshape, and I think some teams also use SolidWorks and do well with it.
Yeah, and then I'm the odd one out because I decided to use Blender for CAD.
Yeah.
Let's see. Find out the next question. Okay, and then from MJ, I see you're speaking a lot about CAD. What is that? It stands for computer aided design. And you can just Google that up if you want to learn more about that. Okay, and then now we have the next one from Luo, which programming language is best for the FTC robot?
I mean,
I believe we use Java.
Yeah, we use Java, but
Which-
really it's whatever works best for you, like whatever makes you the most efficient.
I think for FTC,
so-
they only allow Java and Kotlin. So
Yeah, okay. So next question from Andrew, which is what programming language did you use when you first started robotics? Doesn't really apply since you have to use like Java. Okay. Our next question, what about FTC robotics do you enjoy the most and what do you enjoy least?
I guess for me, the part that I enjoy the most is the kind of at the very beginning of designing a robot, where there's like all sorts of possibilities, where like there's a whole ton of designs, and you're like sketching them out on paper, because like there's so many designs. If you ever like try to make a detailed model of one, you're going to like figure out the others, and it's just like deciding between all the different ones is my favorite part. And I guess my least favorite part is I guess my least favorite part is when like, especially like when a screw gets stuck in a part where it's like really difficult to remove, or like something like that, where like I'm turning a screwdriver for like 30 minutes or something because I need to like disassemble a huge part and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'd say that was also probably my least favorite part of robotics, just dealing with all the hardware issues that come with building, like if a screw gets stuck, or like if we're trying to thread a nut onto a super long screw and you're just there turning your screwdriver until your hand gets like super sore. That alongside, losing sleep. And I'd say my favorite part of robotics was probably going to competitions and like, just seeing all the hard work we've been doing actually, start working and paying off.
Yeah, I agree with Champers. Going to like competitions, seeing the robot run is like really cool, especially if you actually, win. I'd say like more specifically, my favorite part is at the end of qualifiers when we're trying to choose alliances, looking at that giant pile of data that I've collected, and, analyzing it is pretty satisfying to look at. For least favorite part, I guess it's something similar, just working through bugs in the scouting program. I remember once I stayed up with one of our team members that I was mentoring for scouting for like 4 hours trying to fix something in his code. It was like really exhausting.
All right, and our next question comes from Aiden. How did you build up the competition pressure? So how did you sort of cope with the nervousness?
I mean, honestly, you're not that nervous unless you're on the drive team.
Yeah.
So like, we just had to stay ready for in case that anything broke down.
Yeah.
And I guess presentation was also a little bit nerve-wracking, but at the same time, like during their team meetings, we would rehearse everything, and like you've had so much practice by then that you basically have the entire script memorized, and like, it's not that nerve-wracking anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so in this next question, will you continue doing robotics in the future?
Probably.
Yeah, for me, I'm probably going to be joining like the solar car team at UT. So it's like, loosely related to robotics, but like, well, pretty closely related to robotics. It's probably going to be around the same process as what we've done in high school.
Yeah, like and working in like a robotics team in college is definitely going to be a pretty different experience from like, FTC in high school. So that'd be pretty interesting.
Okay, and now we have the next question. The final question for now. If you are the main builder, how can you also improve on your software skill? So I think like with this, if you're doing something, like how do you get good at something else as well?
I guess during the season, it's kind of I guess stressful because they kind of need you to build the robot, and like you kind of might not have time to like work on software. But definitely during the off season, like that's a big opportunity to work on like other skills that are like more like, I guess, for the future. I think.
Yeah, like if you're mainly doing build, it's kind of hard for you to like, also do software. So it's something you would probably want to explore in the off season.
All right, that was our final question for now. Okay, so Ellen, this is specific to you. At the at one of the world championships, you did meet somebody there of pretty big significance, right?
Yeah. So at that time, I was actually still on the Olin wait list, which was very nerve-wracking for me because I really wanted to go there. But as I said earlier, I was like a presenter during the World Conference, And near like the area where I did presentations, they had all the colleges had a bunch of booths set up where they were like talking to all the people who went to FTC at Worlds, like. And then I believe I noticed the Olin person, and I just like went over to their booth and talked to them. I was like, "Hey, I applied to your college, and I was put on the wait list, but I'm still like really interested in going there." And we had like a little conversation. So I think that that conversation was pretty impactful in me getting accepted in the end because, sometimes you just have to like go out of your way to express your interest in something, show that you really like you are interested in this for them to like acknowledge you and take you seriously.
Right. And when we're talking about Olin, how did you get this, $60,000 scholarship, which is not a small amount of money? It must have been an incredible feeling.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. Olin actually, part of their program is that for every student they give a half tuition scholarship, which is, I think it was like 40K ish. I forgot. It was something like that. And then, so once I made it into Olin, they just automatically they give you half off. It's part of their program, and then the rest came from, I believe it was like need-based aid.
Nice. So it's a big achievement, obviously. And so obviously we are joined by 3 people today. 2 of them are males, 1 is a girl. And so let's talk about the girl's role in an FTC team. So you often hear these stereotypes, or maybe not even stereotypes, but a couple of years ago, or maybe a couple of decades ago, things like these may be perceived by society as a male-dominated thing. And what do you think about that? Do you think that this is all a bunch of moot?
Yeah, I think nowadays it's definitely like getting better. Like, I know that this year we have another girl joining our team for A565. I know not 18227. I see a lot of girls. I think that it's definitely better that like we have more girls joining engineering because it offers like, different perspectives from like different kinds of people. So it's just definitely a good thing.
Right. And as you say, more and more girls starting to get more involved with STEM.
Yeah.
So it's also getting extremely good for society. So also I've heard the stereotype that the girls are supposed to do the marketing and outreach and the guys are supposed to do, whatever the building and the hardware and the software. Do you think that there's any truth to this, or is it just like, again, a pretty big stereotype?
I think it's pretty big just stereotype. Like if you're a girl and you want to work on the robot, if you just go in there and make some suggestions and start building or start doing some coding. Like I did do outreach, but I also did like scouting, which involved like programming the app that we all use to do scouting, programming the backend spreadsheet analysis. And I know that on our team we have Shopu. He's doing like a lot of marketing and outreach, even though he's a guy. So it just depends on what you want to do.
I guess I would add that I've seen a lot of like girls who are doing the building and have been like extremely good at it. Like probably better than us. Especially at World, we see a lot of that. So
Yeah, there's
don't be afraid.
there's really nothing stopping anyone from playing any role on the team. So just go for whatever you feel like is meant for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so John, you kind of did this transition because you did mainly building in CAD for your team, and then now you're majoring in computer science. So what made you do this transition from an engineering standpoint to a computer science standpoint?
I guess what I truly like, what I enjoy most about engineering in general is kind of the design part of it. So with software, I mean, a lot of people call it software engineering because what you're really doing is designing like computers and like designing computer architecture or like software architecture. And that's kind of why I was interested in it. Also on the side of robotics, I've also done a lot of like competitive coding, or one summer I managed to get a high school internship at Ericsson. So like, and also like I've done a lot of work with Linux and like messed around with that a lot. So all that contributed to my like enjoyment of computer science.
Yeah, for sure. So could you talk a little bit more about this internship that you did at Ericsson?
Yeah, so I guess high school internships, I guess they're not, I guess, super important, I think. Like, you're not going to be contributing that much to a company as a high schooler, or they don't expect it, at least. But I got into this program called the Plano Mayor's Intern. I'm not sure, they're probably still doing it. It's like where they get a bunch of companies and they like pick a bunch of students and they like kind of match them together. And then you go interview at a bunch of them and they pick a couple high school interns. And I guess it was like good work experience. There was a lot of like, I guess the collaboration was more like intense than like at our team because there was a lot of like trying to find who has a specific knowledge for this very specific thing and like trying to arrange time to work with certain people who like might be super important, might be super busy kind of thing.
Right. So you probably got some additional skills from there as well that you took away. And how do you think that impacted your robotics experience?
I definitely think like it improved my ability to like schedule time with people to like meet and stuff. I definitely like improved my online collaboration skills, I'd say.
Nice. Chambers and Ellen, did you guys do internships as well?
I'll
Okay.
just okay.
Okay,
I did
you-
do a brief summer internship at UT Southwestern. I don't know if it would count as an internship, but I worked on like a small team where we worked to build a website to like help make people aware of pediatric cancer. We did that for I think 2 months during the summer. Yeah, it was.
What do you think you
interesting
took away from that applied into your robotics aspect?
So I think for that, it was definitely also learning how to work on, a team where we would just get together practically every day, also through Zoom, trying to work on this website together. And it was also sort of at like a more professional level that we had to make the website, like to appeal to, actual real life people, not customers, people viewing the website, and not just like for FTC, which is sort of still high school area.
Okay, for me, I cold emailed some professors during the summer leading up to 11th grade, and I got an internship doing power electronics, basically building a power supply around gallium nitride transistors, which is like, a new material that's coming out. It's supposed to be more efficient and tolerate higher voltages than regular silicon transistors. So that's what I was doing for one of my summers.
And what are some skills that you took away from that internship into robotics?
Well, it definitely helped with like, it was mainly electronics and like doing circuit design. So, just troubleshooting skills. Like, okay, my circuit blew up this time. What went wrong? Going back, finding the problem. It's like pretty much the exact same process as robotics, like building hardware. I built this intake, but it doesn't work. What went wrong? Same type of development process.
Right. Okay. So there are a lot of people that are with us right now on both Zoom and YouTube, and a lot of them might not necessarily be involved with FIRST. That are adults, that I mean. So like they might not be adults or they might not have a child that's in robotics. Do you think that becoming a volunteer for FIRST is worth it, like a good experience to have? If so, why would you recommend it to some parents?
Well, I'm not sure about like, because I've never been like a parent volunteer because I'm not a parent, but I would say like, especially for people who are parents of children at FIRST, volunteering and then like, but by volunteering, you see all the robots and see like what all these children have done and like how great the program is. And that's like, I guess, especially for like, if you're a team, I would definitely recommend encouraging the parents to volunteer. Although I don't know if anyone else can speak on like people who don't have children in FIRST.
Well, I'm not sure about people who don't have children in first. Well, I guess by just being like a judge, you can kind of see what like all these kids are doing. It's a lot more impressive than you would think it is, like the amount of like achievements that like teenagers can do. Um, for like parents on a team, it's definitely useful to go, volunteer to be judges at some other tournaments because you can bring back that experience of, how you judged other people and how you can help the kids on your team do better in presentations.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Next is, what do you think is your biggest obstacle that you faced during FTC that you've done, and how did you deal with it?
Oh, I'd say one of the bigger obstacles I faced was probably just, managing our time because robotics takes up a lot of time. And then if you want to do extra things like athletics or join other clubs on top of that, you really have to be able to manage your time super well. Like I was, basically finishing all my homework in class in order to do other things after school. So I'd say that was one of the obstacles I faced.
I guess the obstacle that I faced was mainly like inexperience. Like I said, I joined pretty late onto the team, and then it seemed that everyone else kind of knew what they were doing in when it regards to like coding and building. So I just had to work extra hard to kind of understand and catch up with everyone.
I guess probably the biggest obstacle I faced, well, was like more of communication because I definitely was like very bad at communication when I first joined the team. And I guess it was maybe more of an obstacle for other people on the team because like I had to get used to like making sure everyone else like knew where I was, or like if I was struggling with the design and like would have to postpone when it would get finished, or like ask other people for help on designing parts, and like just like I guess overcoming that barrier and being able to like learning how to ask for all that stuff and like communicate better with the team, like kind of something really helpful. Yeah.
For sure. And so, what do you guys think, each of you, is a recommendation you could give to a person that's either thinking about going into FTC or just joined FTC, the rookies? What do you think is the biggest recommendation that you could give to them to sort of build their experience as a robotics team member?
I would say like always keep trying to do things better. Like like for me, for CAD, a lot of times I would design a part and then I would realize I could have designed this in a better way where it would take like less work designing it this way. Or like if I designed it this way, it would like be easier to change in the future. So like sometimes I would even like create a new CAD model to do it the better way. Just like even though it takes more work up front, the like benefit in the long term is that like you build these skills to like do it the better way the first time. And that's really important.
I guess I would say like don't be afraid to just get involved with anything you want on the team. Like even if you think you're gonna be bad at like building or something, if you're curious, just jump in and start learning how to build a robot or code or whatever you want because FTC is supposed to be like a learning experience. You're not supposed to know everything from the beginning. So like just don't be afraid to jump in there.
Yeah, and once you do join, like don't be afraid to make mistakes because honestly you're not going to be able to design anything perfectly the first time. You're probably going to mess something up, and that's all right because everyone makes mistakes, and that's how you learn the fastest. As long as you're not repeating the same mistakes, and you learn from them.
Yeah, I think those are all really, really good pieces of advice. Okay, so um, to kind of get a better idea of how Technicbots have done so well at their competitions, I thought it would be a good idea to showcase their world record match from the World Championship. So I'm gonna screen share that real quick. Okay, let's see this. All right, so this should work. And let's skip until the match actually starts. And you can get a little bit of a perspective as to how these matches function and the general atmosphere of these matches. So you can see that for either team, they have people here. These are the drivers, and they actually like control the robot, makes it go where it needs to go. But there is a period at the beginning called the autonomous period, where the driver drives itself, or sorry, the robot drives itself. So the main essential for last season, the main name of the game was moving the different freights from the corners into these shipping hubs that are located at the center.
Wait, are you sharing your screen?
Am I not? It should be.
Wait, I
No,
see
I
it.
see it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, actually, I should turn on the volume. Hold on.
438, Wolfpack machine.
You guys hear that?
Getting one more on as we
Drivers,
end
pick
the
up your
autonomous
controls.
period.
3, 2, 1.
And we have a stronger lead for the Red Alliance as we enter the driver control period. One more freight going on in by the Wolfpack. Blue Alliance in the warehouse. Picking up freight. Wow, Wolfpack scoring again for the Red.
Okay, I think that's enough. So you can just kind of see how these function, these competitions look. So could each one of you kind of describe more of that incredible atmosphere that is the competition?
Yeah, so everyone at a competition is like super energetic. It's like it almost feels like you're at a sporting event, you know, like you're all hoping for your team to do well, and you're like, you know, a little bit nervous if you're on the drive team, and like overall the atmosphere is just like really energetic.
Yeah, for sure. And so you look at these parallels that people draw between sporting events and FTC, and I can definitely see that within the competitions. But as far as how the team functions, would you say that is like a sports team at all, or is it a completely different ballgame? No pun intended.
In a way, it kind of is like a sports team. You know, you've got like each person has like their specialized area where they work to, you know, help the team to ultimately, you know, reach the goal. Um, and there's that sense of like camaraderie when everyone's like on the field together and during the tournament. If you win, everyone's like super hyped up. And it really is like you're playing a sport and you're winning.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been to my fair share of qualifiers, and the ones that I've been to with Technicbots, it's always incredible to see in the elimination matches how much people cheer for Technicbots. It's like an echo that could be heard from a mile away. It's really incredible how much people cheer on the Technicbots, and for good reason. So I think that we're going to move on to the Q&A now, because we've gotten through most of what we needed to. So let us start from where we left off last time. So Kathy asks, when did you all start doing robotics? There might have been people who have joined late, might not have heard the first little bit, so you guys should just briefly rehash that.
Yeah, so I joined in a middle school team, and that was my first exposure to, well, pretty much my first exposure to robotics and to FTC. And then after that, I kind of missed the deadline to join, or I didn't really join a team in 9th grade, but then I joined the Technicbots in 10th grade. So then I continued and kind of took off from there.
Yeah, I was in 7th grade when I when I learned of the Technicbots, when they like taught at a camp that I went to where we learned about STEM and like robotics. And then I later joined in 10th grade when I heard that they were opening up applications.
And I basically, you know, was on my own for throughout middle school, and then I joined in somewhere around 9th grade, second semester.
All right, next question from Aiden. How did your robotics benefit your college application? This is a good question.
I'd say like most of the awards I put on my college application were from robotics, so it definitely helped. And like it also gives you a lot of good essay topics to write about, because you know you go through a lot of challenges when you're in robotics, and it's good to write about as well.
Yeah, I remember my main essay for Common App was like basically just about robotics. since it's so well-rounded that you can write about like, soft skills you've learned, like leadership in presentation, things like that, and along with like technical skills like, coding and building.
Yeah, for sure. Next question. Is there some story you would like to share when you go through all the challenges, like a specific issue that you solved?
I guess you gotta just like, if something's not working, you gotta just try new things, and like don't be afraid to build custom parts. Like for me, during Ultimate Goal, like I didn't have any small like rubbery wheels available for me, and I needed a tiny wheel at the bottom to push the rings up. So what I ended up doing was that I essentially 3D printed a mold and then built the wheel myself, like built a cast silicone wheel myself with the 3D printed mold. So you gotta just experiment around and just have fun with it.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, next question. What clubs did you take in middle school and high school?
Honestly, I can't remember which clubs I did in middle school. That was too long ago. And middle school, like things don't really matter too much. You're really just there to like, have a good time with friends when you're still in middle school. In high school, I mainly did BPA, which is Business Professionals of America. That's like a club that goes into a competition. I also did a physics Olympiad, and I was also on the swim team. Yeah.
In high school, our clubs, well, while I could still do clubs before COVID, I did very briefly BPA, I think it's for like a year. And then I did TSA, which is like Technology Service Association. So basically BPA, but about technology. And you did like technology competitions and things like that.
I guess in high school, I was in like my school's coding club, and then I also took part in the band since 6th grade.
Yeah. Okay, and then next question. Could you share your success formula such as X% passion plus X% talent plus X% hard work?
Well, I guess like, I mean, there's not very many people who have like so much passion to start out. It definitely like the kind of thing where you like get more experienced with it, and as you work harder, then you like the passion kind of develops and you begin to enjoy it more. And of course, there are like some days where you really don't want to do anything, but you just like gotta do it anyway. I guess that's the hard work part.
Right. So do you agree with the success formula, like X% passion plus X% talent plus X% hard work leads to success? Or would you consider it not able to be really put in percentage values?
Well,
I don't think you can really put it in percentage values, because like if you have passion and you're willing to work, then like it doesn't really matter if you're too talented or not. Well, talent still does matter a little bit, but like as long as you're passionate about it and you're willing to work hard, you're going to be able to succeed.
yeah. Like even if you start out and you're like crap at something, talent kind of does grow as you put more hard work into it. So it's not really like a certain formula for success, I guess.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree with that. And then our next question here, how do you deal with the Asian stereotype in the reality and your college application?
Oh,
Uh,
Well,
honestly, you kind of just accept it. Like there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah, like if someone's gonna judge you for being Asian, it's not like they'll say it to your face. They'll just kind of, judge you behind your back. You just have to face it.
Yeah, I think that there's not much you can do about that as well. And then we have another comment. Passion is overrated nowadays. Actually, when you do something well, you're willing to work on it more and more, and then you'll become better on it. So you guys pretty much agree with that sort of look on passion?
I think definitely, yeah. It's like if there was no future prospect for engineering, and like if the only reason I would ever do engineering was like just for the sake of it, then there'd be like maybe 10 people who become engineers. Like most people are doing it for the end goal, and then as they like work harder on it, then they start to enjoy it, and then like yeah, kind of like as a developing process. Like no one starts out with a ton of passion.
For sure. Okay, so see, I think that is it. If I missed anything, you guys can just let me know in the chat. I would like to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is hosted by FTC Team 18227 Area 52. This is the first of many, so we'll be inviting lots of speakers onto here. They might be from STEM companies, or they might be just like these people, which are first alumni. We'll invite them on, and they get to talk about it. So we hope to see you guys next time we do this. Yeah, we thank you guys for joining. If you guys would like to check out our stuff. Oh, by the way, I don't want to forget to mention this. 8565, which is the team that these people are on, need your help. Let's see, let me pull this up. They need your help because they are going to the World's competition, obviously, and they need funding. Yeah, they need some funding because it's very expensive to do this. It's $10,000 for the registration fee alone. So if you guys are able to, maybe you don't have to put in a lot of money, maybe just a couple of dollars to give it their way. It's going to help their cause a lot. So there's a QR code on the screen. I will also link you guys to where you can donate to them. It would really mean a lot to them, and it would also mean a lot to us because we're getting mentored by them if they are able to actually compete at Worlds. So let me open this. Okay, this is a GoFundMe. If you're able to, please go ahead and donate to that. And yeah, I hope that you guys are able to do this. And I know that these three here, even if they might not be competing at First Global, it still means a lot to them, and I think they would appreciate this a lot. Yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining. And yeah, is there anything else that you guys want to say that you'd want to leave people off with? If there's one thing you could say to everybody, what would it be?
Don't be afraid to try new things, even if it looks intimidating at first. Just go for it.
Yeah, honestly, like just don't be afraid of making mistakes. If you really are curious for something, just try some random crap stuff and don't be afraid to fail.
I guess I would say like don't go trying to cure cancer or anything. Don't like be too ambitious. Like do something that's like you can do well, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for attending this. We will keep in contact with you for any future things that we decide to host. This is by Area 52, so if you see an email from them, make sure that you pay attention to it. And yeah, thank you guys so much. And that's pretty much it. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you for inviting us.